I looked down the street, both directions. It was getting dark, getting cold, and I got in the van and I hit a bunch of corners. I went down this street. I turned my light on. I searched. I called their names. Talked to a gentleman on the street on the other side over there. He didn't see anyone.
So he left at 16:33 and he's back by 16:38.
How fast he's coming back? He's punching it, bro.
Yeah, he's moving.
Look at that.
For people who are thinking that there's some kind of foul play involved, we just spoke to the biological mother. She says she had a conversation with you guys, and that she thinks there's some kind of foul play involved, that she thinks you guys did something.
And that's understandable.
What's your response to that?
That's understandable. I would think the same thing.
Yep.
The community is scared, confused, and angry, and so is the biological mother of both boys.
I don't understand.
Where are they?
Ultimately, the answer to the question of where are the boys will be answered. It's that they're dead. And at the end of the case, I will ask you to return a verdict of guilty beyond a reasonable doubt as to Trezell and Jacqueline for the murders of Orrin and Orson West.
A grand jury indicted the West, the adopted parents of Orrin and Orson, in March 2022. Their attorneys have said the couple had nothing to do with the boys' disappearance. The bodies of Orrin and Orson have not been found.
One of the most highly anticipated trials in Kern County in recent years. A jury was chosen last week for the trial of Trezell and Jacqueline West. The California City couple is charged with murders of their adopted sons, Orrin and Orson, who were reported missing more than 2 years ago. The bodies of the boys have not been found. One of the things that's very interesting, though, the boys are still missing. There are no bodies. Yet these parents are charged with involuntary manslaughter and second-degree murder. How is this possible if there are no bodies?
That's one thing that was asked of District Attorney Cynthia Zimmer when the charges were first announced. And she said she could recall 2 cases off the top of her head where there were no bodies in Kern County, but the DA was able to get secure murder convictions in those cases. So it is possible. It is a lot more difficult, though. Typically, in a murder trial, I think Eric Smith said during jury selection last week, he told potential jurors, 99.9% of jury trials, there's a body. You're going to see autopsy photos. You're going to hear from a pathologist talking about how the person died. In this case, you're not going to have that. So it's going to be interesting to see what evidence the prosecution has pointing to the fact that someone was killed and that the Wests were responsible. They have a lot to prove here regarding that, since the boys have not been found.
Involuntary manslaughter to second-degrry murder. Both. Why both?
Most serious charge is the second-degree murder charge. That carries a penalty of 15 years to life. In that case, that's the example I've heard most often is shooting into a crowded room. It's a reckless disregard for human life. You may not mean to kill somebody, but it's so reckless that you can be charged with murder if someone dies as a result. The involuntary manslaughter is the unintentional killing of someone else. 4 years is the maximum you can face with that. As to why they filed both, I'm not sure. It may be that the evidence doesn't support second degree. They go with the involuntary manslaughter instead. In California, it's 7 years a person is presumed dead if they haven't been heard from. In this case, they filed charges just after about a year and a half, I believe it was. And I think part of that is because the boys are so young. Mm-hmm. They're clearly not traveling anywhere. Right. Either. One thing that Timothy Hennessy, one of the defense attorneys for Trezell West, said is that, one, their clients didn't do it, but also he said the boys may still be alive, just missing. Someone may have taken them. So we'll find out more about what he has to say during his opening statement, too.
Because that is what the West said when they initially reported the boys missing. They said they ran away. They got out of the back fence.
That's correct. The father said he was gathering firewood. It was December 2020. He was outside gathering firewood. The boys were outside playing together. He said he went in briefly to drop off the firewood, came back out, and they were gone.
However, the interesting thing in this case is these were not the West's only children. They have multiple other, both adopted and biological children, and they're expected to be involved in the trial, right?
That's right. The Wests have 2 biological children and 2 other adopted children, and at least some or maybe all of them will be called to testify. I believe the oldest is now 13 and the youngest 6. And during jury selection, the defense attorneys did ask potential jurors. They said, we want you to keep in mind that, yes, there will be children testifying. There's probably going to be some emotional testimony, some tears, right. But don't let that sway you. Just listen to what they say. And also to be cognizant of the fact that sometimes children say things to please adults. kind of suggesting to the jury that they may be wanting to please the investigators, and it may not be exactly what happened. But they just told them basically keep an open mind and examine their testimony as you would anyone else.
The West were a family of 8 with 4 adopted children and 2 biological children. Smith told the jury that the West's primary source of income was the $4,000 total a month made from each child they adopted. Smith said the boys are dead and they didn't die at the same time.
Orson was in California City for about 4 days. At some point, Adrian heard a loud thud in the night. The day prior to hearing the thud, Orson was there. The day after the loud thud, Orson was gone and he hasn't seen him since.
Defense attorney Timothy Hennessy says this is still a missing persons case and that the West want answers as to where their children are, as any parents would.
This was a tragic accident, is what the evidence will show. All right? They don't have an answer for it because it was tragic. But instead, Trezell is here on a murder charge.
Hennessy said there are inconsistencies in the investigation and that evidence will show the couple's innocence.
Cal City out the gate just never thought anyone would take 2 little black boys. That's why the investigation will look the way it did.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Trezell West. This is Jacqueline West. And their 2 sons are missing. Their sons, Orrin and Orson, are missing. We're here because it's easier to charge them than for them to explain why they couldn't find them.
This is the last known photo ever taken of Orrin. Recovered from the cell phones that were seized in this case. This is the last known photo of Orson, taken in the apartment at Lotus Lane, July 25th, 2020. Now, during one of the interviews, and it'll be played for you here, Jacqueline West talks about how she talked to her kids about Orrin and Orson. She said, I told them, pretend they're not here. Just act like they don't live here. Just go do your work. She talked about what she did with Orrin and Orson. I always keep them separated. I keep them separated.
Weird.
I focus mainly on schooling while they're playing. They don't really play together, but they have played together. I just don't know. But that's essentially what happened to Orrin and Orson. They were in that home, but they were kept separate. And then ultimately, sometime in September, they were killed and have not been seen since then. Not only were they not in the van on December 19th, that they hadn't been in the home in California City also.
As testimony and body camera footage was played from the night the boys were reported missing, officers questioned that the boys had left through the backyard as the couple claimed.
Their bodies have never been found. Have never been found. Even with the attempts of the California City Police Department, the Bakersfield Police Department, the FBI.
The prosecution also stating that the West's other children all claimed the boys were gone long before that night, and that neighbors claimed to have never seen one or both of them.
For weeks, that all 4 will be called to testify, including the eldest child, who said he witnessed Orrin turn pale and die one night when the family still lived in Bakersfield before moving to California City.
Officer Brian Hansen testified that he became suspicious shortly after responding to the West home for a report of 2 missing children. This was in December of 2020. Hansen said he checked the backyard where the West said Orrin and Orson had been playing, but saw no footprints made by a child's shoe. This is not a normal situation, Hansen said into his body-worn camera video that was playing in court this morning. These kids didn't just walk away, he said. The biggest revelation in this case so far came from the prosecution yesterday. Prosecutor Eric Smith telling the jury one of West's other children said he witnessed one of the boys die and said the other later disappeared after a thud was heard one night. Although the boys' bodies have not been found, the prosecution has said that evidence, including interviews with the West's other children, indicates the boys were killed in September of 2020, 3 months before the West reported them missing. The West are charged with second-degree murder, involuntary manslaughter, and other offenses and face life terms in prison if convicted.
The trial of Trezell and Jacqueline West has resumed, with the West adopted 10-year-old child on the stand. Prosecutor Eric Smith is displaying a photo of bunk beds in the West California City home. The child said he had the top bed. Orrin or Orson had the bottom, he said, adding he can't remember. The boy said he thinks Jacqueline and Trezell West told him Orrin and Orson were going to sleep down there. He said sometimes he would see them sleep on the bottom. Smith is asking him about his prior testimony for the grand jury. When he testified before, according to Smith's questioning, the child said no to seeing Orrin and Orson on the bottom bed. The boy says he thinks he saw Orrin and Orson sleeping in the bottom bunk. Smith asked the boy if he remembers going to his grandmother Wanda West's house in December 2020. The boy said yes. The boy said he remembers the white van used to take him to the grandmother's house. He listed the others in the van with him. He said he doesn't know if Orrin or Orson were in the van with him and the other children. The boy said he remembers police coming to the grandmother's house. The boy has identified an image of himself at a table. Smith is about to play the boy's interview with law enforcement. The interview is being played now. The boy says he broke his arm when he was at the apartment when he fell while climbing the monkey bars. An officer is asking the boy to spell his name. Ask him if he knows the difference between a lie and the truth. The boy was 8 at the time of the interview. The boy says he doesn't know the difference between doing something right or doing something wrong. Asked what happens at home when he does something wrong, the boy says we miss out on stuff, like cake. He says yes when the officer asks if he knows it's wrong to hurt somebody. If I were to punch you, would it be wrong? The officer asked. Yes, the boy says. The officer asked who was in the car when the boy went to the grandmother's house. He lists the Wests and his brothers, but not Orrin and Orson. He says the last time he saw them was at the apartment in Bakersfield. The video has ended. The child said he remembered speaking with the officer. The child, shown a photo of the West apartment in Bakersfield, testified that's where he last saw Orrin and Orson. The West moved from that apartment to Cal City in September 2020. He said either the West or one of the biological children told him Orrin was staying at Jacqueline West's mother's house. The boy said he doesn't know where Orson went and didn't ask Trezell or Jacqueline West. Smith ended his questioning. Alexia Torres-Stallings, lead attorney for Jacqueline West, has begun cross-examination. Torres-Stallings asked how many times the boy has talked with Smith. He said he thinks 4 times. Torres-Stallings asked the boy what he was told he'd be doing today. He said to tell the truth. Torres-Stallings asked the boy was he given anything to read before coming here today. He said no. He said no one told him to refer to the West as Jackie and Trezell. Torres-Stallings said when he previously testified, he called Jacqueline West mom and Trezell West dad. Did anyone tell you not to look at them? Torres-Stallings asked. No, he said. The boy said he hasn't seen them in a long time. The boy said his favorite memory of Jacqueline is when they moved to the desert. Torres-Stallings showed him a photo and he said he remembers it. He said they sometimes went on picnics. His favorite memory of Trezell is when he made bread because it was good, the boy said. Trezell West wiped his eyes and attorney Victor Nasser handed him a tissue. Torres-Stallings is asking about Christmas and the toys they received. The boy said Orrin and Orson helped decorate the Christmas tree. Torres-Stallings is asking about the arm the boy had broken. He said he had a cast and drew on it. He said it happened a long time ago. The boy said he started referring to the Cal City area as High Desert when he was placed in another home after the West. The boy paused, then said, sometimes, when asked about other children he lived with in foster homes after the West. He said, sometimes they hit him. The boy's testimony has changed multiple times as to if Orrin and Orson went to the California City home. Asked by Torres-Stallings, the boy said Orrin and Orson weren't in the van when the West dropped off him and the other children at his grandmother's house. Torres-Stallings has finished and Timothy Hennessy has begun cross-examination. The boy said when they first moved to Cal City, they slept on the floor because the bunk beds hadn't been built. Hennessy finished and Smith is again asking questions. The boy said he doesn't remember if he also slept on the floor at the Bakersfield apartment. The child has been excused. Court is in recess for 15 minutes. Court is back in session with another one of the West's adopted children on the witness stand. The boy is 8 years old. He's in 3rd grade. He said he knows the difference between the truth and a lie and answered a couple of questions showing that he knows the difference. He said math is his favorite subject. He also likes reading. Shown a photo of Trezell, the boy said that's his dad. Shown a photo of Jacqueline, he said that's his mom. The boy said he recognizes a photo of the apartment building in Bakersfield where he used to live. The boy said he used to play games with Orrin. He said he didn't play with Orson because he was in another bedroom. The boy said Orrin and one of the West's biological children slept in his bedroom. The boy said he doesn't remember if Orrin and Orson ever got in trouble and said no when asked if they were punished by his father. The boy said he doesn't remember moving to the house in California City. He said the outside was his favorite part of the house because he could play outside. He played with his dogs in the backyard. The boy said he doesn't remember who stayed in which bedroom in Cal City. Smith is going to show him some photos. Shown a photo of one of the bedrooms, the boy said it was his, another of the adopted children's, and Orrin's room. He said he saw Orrin sleeping there. Smith asked the boy if he remembered Orrin and Orson moving with them. No, the boy said. He said he doesn't remember who moved with them. The boy said he didn't go to school in the high desert and doesn't remember a classroom with a sliding door. Previous testimony has indicated the West children were homeschooled. The boy said he remembers going to his grandmother's house around Christmas in 2020, and he went there in a van. He said he doesn't remember where he sat in the van and doesn't remember who was in the van with him. Smith is going to play the video of the boy's interview with police. The video is playing. Smith stopped it to fix a technical issue. Smith has gone back to asking questions of the boy. The boy said Orrin and Orson moved to Cal City and stayed with him, but he doesn't remember for how long. The boy has answered, "I don't remember," to many of the prosecutor's questions. The boy said he recalls testifying previously, but doesn't remember how long ago it was or being asked about Orrin and Orson. Smith asked if he remembers saying Orrin and Orson left one day after they moved to the desert. The boy said he doesn't remember saying that. Smith is now playing the interview video. The boy says they miss out if they do something bad. On what? Good stuff. The boy said he lives with his dad and his brothers in the Cal City house. He doesn't mention Orrin and Orson, but names the other brothers. When they traveled in the van to his grandmother's house, his parents, he, and his brothers were in the van, but not Orrin and Orson, he said. The boy said Orrin and Orson moved to the Cal City house, but then they left. He says they were only there one day and he doesn't know where they went. The video has ended. Asked by Smith, the boy said he remembers that interview and did the best to tell the truth. He said he doesn't remember what he meant by saying Orrin and Orson were only in Cal City one day. Smith ended his questioning and Tori Stallings has begun cross-examination. She's asking the boy some quick, easy questions, including what he had for breakfast and lunch. Tori Stallings asked who else was in the car that brought him to court. My brothers, the boy said. He said he was told he would be coming to court on Monday by prosecutor Eric Smith. The West's 2 biological children and 2 other adopted children were brought to the courthouse together. The boy said he doesn't remember how long ago he testified. I don't remember, the boy said when asked to say something good about his mom. Under questioning by Tori Stallings, he said he remembers her cooking for him and his dad playing with him. The boy said Orrin and Orson were at the Cal City house for a long time. The boy said everyone, including Orrin and Orson, helped put up the Christmas tree. He said Orrin and Orson slept in a bedroom in Cal City. Tori Stallings finished her questioning. The boy has been excused. One of the West's biological children has been called to the stand. Each of the West children has shown up wearing a collared white shirt. The boy is 9 years old. He's in 3rd grade. His favorite subject in school is writing. He identified the West as his parents. He said he remembers living in an apartment in Bakersfield. The boy said he doesn't recognize a photo of the apartment complex where the West lived, but he does recognize a photo of a house in Cal City. He said he doesn't remember what room he stayed in or what it looked like. Asked who lived at the house, he named the West and his brothers, but didn't name Orrin and Orson. Smith is asking the boy about bunk beds and who slept where. The boy said he slept in the middle bunk. The The boy testified he doesn't remember Orrin and Orson. Smith has displayed photos of Orrin and Orson. The boy said he doesn't recognize them. The boy said he doesn't remember going to his grandmother's house in December 2020, being there when police showed up, or talking to police. Smith is going to play video of an interview police conducted with the child. The video is playing. The boy keeps rubbing his face and fidgeting in his seat. The officer answers his phone during the interview, then goes back to questioning the boy. The boy is having difficulty answering any of the questions, including giving examples of something right and something wrong. He starts answering some questions and says mom and dad taught him right from wrong. He says he came to his grandmother's house a few days ago. His parents were in the van when they traveled there, and so were his brothers. He gives their names but doesn't give Orrin and Orson's name. Asked who lived with him, he also doesn't name Orrin and Orson, but does say they lived in the apartment in Bakersfield. Asked why they didn't move to the house in Cal City, the boy says because they were crying a lot. He says his parents told him that. He says his parents told him the boys went back to where they used to live. The boy says he didn't like having Orrin and Orson at home because they cried. The video ended. The boy testified he still doesn't remember the interview with the police officer. Asked what he meant when he told the officer Orrin and Orson West went to the place they used to live, the boy said they went home. Smith ended his questioning. Tori Stallings has begun cross-examination. She asked what he had to eat and how he got there. The boy told her what he had to eat and that someone drove him to court. The boy said he has been in the courtroom before. Tori Stallings went over the differences between truth, lies, and mistakes with the boy. The boy said his mom was a good teacher. He was homeschooled by Jacqueline West. Every memory is his favorite memory of his mom and dad, the boy said. Attorney Victor Nasser handed tissues to Trezell and Jacqueline West. The West's 9-year-old biological son is back on the witness stand. He's being cross-examined by Alexia Torres Stallings, lead counsel for Jacqueline West. A sidebar has been called. The sidebar was called after prosecutor Eric Smith objected to Torres Stallings asking the boy where he lives now. The attorneys and judge are back, and the child is testifying to the people he lives with. Torres Stallings is asking if other people in the home have talked about his parents. He said no, but he has seen them on TV. He said he saw them on TV once, a long time ago. The boy has talked about sleeping arrangements. He said he and some of his brothers were in the Cal City home for a long time, but he couldn't remember how long Orrin and Orson were there. The boy said Orrin and Orson would be at the dining room table and eat there with the rest of the family. Torres Stallings has finished her questioning. On redirect, prosecutor Eric Smith asked who disciplined him and his brothers. He said no, and doesn't remember who disciplined Orrin and Orson. The boy confirmed that when asked how long Orrin and Orson lived at the Cal City home, he said he didn't know. On recross, the boy said his father would sometimes talk to him when he made a mistake, like running in the house. The boy has been excused. The West's eldest biological son has been called to the stand. This is the child who Smith said told police he saw Orrin die at the apartments in Bakersfield. He's 12 years old and in the 7th grade. The boy said science is his favorite subject. He said sometimes he plays with his brothers. The boy pointed out Trezell West and said that's his father, and Jacqueline West and said she's his mother. The boy testified he remembers the apartment they lived in Bakersfield. He said he remembers moving to Cal City. He said all his brothers slept in the same room. They had mattresses on the floor. Smith showed the boy a drawing the boy had made. The boy said he made it to show the sleeping arrangements of him and of his brothers at the apartment. Orrin slept next to one of the other adopted children, and Orson also slept next to another of the West's adopted children, the boy said. He said the mattress went with them to Cal City. The boy said he didn't see Orrin and Orson being disciplined. He said his father spanked him if he did something bad. He said his father usually used his hand. He didn't see him spank Orrin or Orson. Smith showed the boy a photo. The boy said his dad made it and it was kept for self-defense. It's a stick. Shown another photo, the boy said he believes it's the apartment where they lived. He said his parents bought a home in Cal City in 2020. The boy said he was excited his parents bought a home in Cal City. He said he doesn't remember how many rooms it had or how big it was. The boy recognized the house when Smith showed him a photo. The boy said everybody moved to the Cal City house, including Orrin and Orson. The boy said he remembers an incident in Bakersfield where Orrin threw up. He doesn't remember when it happened or what time of the day. He believes it was morning. The boy said he saw Orrin throwing up. He said he's not sure what happened to Orrin. He said he doesn't remember much about it. The boy said he saw vomit. He said he's not really sure what he meant when he told police Orrin's color was fading. The boy said that he's not sure if Orrin was taken somewhere while they were in the apartment in Bakersfield. Shown a picture of his room in Cal City, the boy said he slept in the top bunk. His biological brother slept in the middle, and he believes Orson slept in the bottom bunk. He said he's not sure if Orrin or Orson slept in the bottom. The boy said he was homeschooled in Cal City. Smith showed him a photo of what the boy said was their schoolroom. He said he and 3 of his brothers went to the schoolroom, not Orrin and Orson. The boy said around Christmas 2020, he remembers going to his grandmother's house. He said he doesn't remember who drove him or who was in the van. He said he remembers the police coming to his grandmother's house and being questioned. The boy said he tried to tell police the truth. Smith is going to play the video of the boy's interview with police. The boy said he recognized himself in the videos. Transcripts of the interview are being handed out to the jury. The video is playing. The boy was 10 at the time. The boy says he knows the difference between a lie and the truth. If he does something wrong at home, we get talked to by Dad, the boy said. The boy says he knows it's wrong to hurt or kill someone. He says he knows it's against the law and it's just wrong because why would you want to kill somebody? The boy says he likes being at home and has a bunch of toys. He says Orrin and Orson weren't with them when they got dropped off at his grandmother's house. He doesn't know where they got dropped off, but said his parents dropped them off a while ago. He says it was weeks ago. The boy said his parents told him they were dropping Orrin and Orson off at their grandparents'. The boy says they haven't talked to Orrin or Orson. He says he doesn't know why they went to their grandparents' house. He says he liked Orrin and Orson, but they were sort of annoying because they cried a lot. The boy says Orrin and Orson went to the Cal City house with them. The boy has clarified his answer and says Orrin went to his grandmother's house before they moved to Cal City, and Orson went after they moved. The video's over. Smith is continuing to question the boy. The boy said he doesn't remember telling the officer the boys had been gone for weeks. He said he remembers a little bit talking with another person after the officer. He said he doesn't remember what type of questions she asked. The interview the boy had with the person will be played by Smith. Transcripts are being provided to the jury. The video is about 20 minutes long. The video has begun. A woman enters the frame and says she'll be interviewing the boy and gives the time and date. The woman leaves, then returns with the boy, who takes a seat on a chair while the woman sits on a couch. The woman asks him to tell her about his dog, which he does. He gives descriptions of 3 dogs. The boy talked about being at his grandmother's house. He says his parents dropped him off at his grandmother's house on the 19th. The woman asked where Orrin and Orson are. The boy says at their grandmother's house. He says they went there before this month. He says his parents told him the boys were at their grandparents' house. He says the boys weren't around for Thanksgiving or Halloween. He says he believes they left after they moved. The boy says he doesn't remember what month they moved to Cal City. The boy said Orrin and Orson were around for his birthday in June and were there in July for one of his brother's birthdays. He says Orrin and Orson went to their grandmother's house a couple of days after we moved. The boy says he hasn't seen Orrin or Orson since then. He says his parents didn't tell him how long the boys were going to stay with their grandmother. The woman steps out of the room. She returns and continues asking questions. The boy agrees it's long for Orrin and Orson to be at their grandmother's house. He says his parents didn't say why the boys went there. Why do you think I'm asking you questions about Orson and Orrin? The woman asks. I don't know, the boy says. The woman finishes her questioning and leaves the room. Smith stopped the video. Court is in recess for 15 minutes. Court is back in session. The 12-year-old biological son is still on the stand. He's being questioned by Prosecutor Eric Smith. The boy said he doesn't really remember that much. Doesn't really remember Orrin and Orson going to their grandmother's. The boy said he doesn't remember what his parents told him about Orrin and Orson coming back. Smith is asking the child to look at the transcript of the interview and what he said back then. The boy said his parents told him Orrin and Orson would return after spending time at the grandmother's house. Smith is directing the boy to another part of the transcript and asking him to read it. The boy said he was asked to put a time as to when Orrin and Orson went to their grandmother's, and he said it happened a couple days after they moved. The boy read another part of the transcript at Smith's behest. He said his answer when asked if he had seen the boys after they went to their grandmother's was no. Smith is going to play a video of a second interview the boy had with the woman. The first interview occurred December 22nd, 2020. The second one on December 28, 2020. Attorney Timothy Hennessy has asked for a sidebar, and the judge and attorneys are leaving the room. They have returned. The video will be played. Transcripts are being passed out. The video is playing. The boy enters the same room as before and has a seat in the chair, while the woman who previously interviewed him has a seat on the couch. The boy says he's been crying because he's been taken away from his parents. He says it's because Orrin and Orson are missing. He says Orrin choked while he was sleeping. He says it happened at the apartment they lived in Bakersfield. The boy says Orrin was throwing up. The next morning, his parents found Orrin, he says. His parents told him about it and asked him if they should keep it a secret. Orrin had taken Orson's drink. Nothing happened to him. They just went to bed, the boy says. He says he saw Orrin the next morning. The boy says Orrin was on his belly in the morning and they realized he had choked when his parents tried to wake him up. The boy says his parents were crying when they told him about Orrin. The boy says Orrin's color was fading when he saw him. He says his parents asked him if they should call an ambulance, and he told them no because his parents said he would be taken away. The boy says he doesn't know what happened to Orrin after that. He says his parents told the other boys Orrin went to their grandmother's to keep it a secret from the others. The boy says he touched Orrin's body and it was cold. The boy says Orson went to Cal City with them. He says he thinks Orrin died a week before they moved and that Orson was taken to his grandmother's house 4 days after the move. He says Orson never came back. He says he was asleep when his parents took Orson. The boy says sometimes his parents used their hands to smack the boys or a paddle stick. He says he got hit with it once. Everyone got hit with it. He says they deserved it. One of the children, not Orrin or Orson, was forced to take cold showers if he peed while sleeping, the boy says. The boy says his parents chopped up Orrin's food using a blender, then put it in a bottle. They didn't want him chewing with his mouth open, he says. Orrin later stole Orson's drink. Then they went to bed, the boy says. The boy says his parents told Orson to punch Orrin for stealing the drink. He says he thinks Orson punched Orrin, but he wasn't there. Then they all went to sleep, and he heard noises but thought it was normal because Orrin and Orson always made noises, the boy said. Orrin was dead the next day. The woman steps out of the room. The woman returns. The boy says he doesn't know what his parents did with Orrin. The woman is asking him about the placements of the beds in the room. The boy says he was excited when they moved to the new house in California City. He says there was a bunk bed for Orrin in the house because his parents didn't want to let the others know what had happened to him. The woman gets a water for the boy and asks more questions. The boy talks about wondering why the police showed up to his grandmother's house. He says he thought the original parents called police because they thought something happened to Orrin and Orson. The boy says he saw Orson months ago. The video has ended. Court is in recess until 1:35 p.m. The trial of Trezell and Jacqueline West is back in session, with the West's eldest child on the stand being questioned by prosecutor Eric Smith. With Smith referring him to the transcript of the interview played before the afternoon break, the boy said Orrin choked and there was vomit coming out of his mouth. The boy said he had gone to schoolroom and came back and his mom and dad were in the room. He said he's not sure if his parents said anything about Orrin. He said he doesn't remember what happened next. Probably, yeah, the boy said when asked if he was scared. He said he, his parents, and Orson were in the room. The boy said he doesn't recall having a conversation with his parents about calling an ambulance. After looking at the transcript, the boy said he didn't think an ambulance should be called because the police would show up. I was scared of losing my family, he said. He said he was afraid he and his brothers would be removed from the home. The boy said his parents told him it was a possibility they would be removed. He said they agreed to keep Orrin's death a secret, but doesn't remember much about it. He said he didn't tell his other brothers what had happened. I didn't want them to be scared, he said. He said his parents told him Orrin was dead. Asked if his parents tried to revive Orrin, perform CPR, he said, I believe it was something like that. He said they didn't call 911. They had cell phones. The boy was homeschooled. He said he went back to class after being told Orrin was dead. As the oldest child, he said he thinks his parents trusted him. He said he agreed to keep the death a secret. The boy said he had lots of things to do as a kid, so Orrin's death usually didn't come to mind. I'm not sure, he said, when asked if it was fair for his parents to tell him not to say anything about Orrin's death. I have no idea, the boy said when asked what happened to Orrin's body. He said he didn't ask, and his parents didn't tell him. The boy said he doesn't remember saying Orson left after 4 days at the Cal City house. He said his parents told him Orson went to Grandma's house. He said he believes it happened in the days after they moved to Cal City. Orson wasn't at the house when his grandmother Wanda came out to Cal City, the boy said. The boy said he heard a sound the night before he was told Orson was taken to Grandma Maria's house. He said it sounded like a soap bottle falling in the bathroom. Orson wasn't at the house the day after he heard that sound, and he hasn't seen him since, the boy said. The boy said he saw an interview with his parents on TV. He identified a still image of the West taken from an interview outside the Cal City house in the days after the boy's disappearance. The boy said he watched some of the interview. He said he knew Orrin was dead at the time. He said he doesn't really remember what he thought when he saw his dad lying on camera about what had happened. Asked by Smith, the boy said he has good memories of his parents in Cal City, other than what happened with Orrin and Orson. Smith is about to play another video. The video shows the boy and two of his older brothers pretending to do kung fu. The boy said he has good memories and it's hard for him to be on the stand and tell the truth. Smith ended his questioning, and attorney Alexia Torres Stallings has begun cross-examination. The boy said he had pizza for lunch. He said he thinks he had met Smith more than 5 times. The boy said no one had him read anything or talk to him about his testimony before he came back for the afternoon session of the trial. He said no one talked to him about why he was coming to court He said Smith had previously talked to him, he thinks last week, about what he was going to be doing. The boy said Smith told him he was going to ask him questions, and if he didn't know the answers, just say so. The boy said he has previously been in a courtroom and people asked him questions. The boy said he took an oath on that occasion too. Asked what a mistake is, the boy said it's when you do something and you mess up in a way that's not helping the situation. He said an example would be if you broke something, then buy something to replace it. Tori Stallings is asking about memories. The boy agreed with her that sometimes it's hard to remember something that happened a long time ago. Tori Stallings is asking about the coronavirus. The boy said he had gone to school before COVID hit. He said afterward, when he was home for remote learning, his mom helped him and kept him on track. The boy said he doesn't have a favorite memory of his mother or father. He said he's not mad at his parents. The boy, now 12, and the biological son of the West, said he lived with them for 10 years. Tori Stallings showed him a photo. The boy said he believes he remembers that day. They went to the park, had Little Caesars. Tori Stallings showed him another photo where a filter made it appear as if he were wearing an elf hat. The boy said he doesn't remember that. The boy is wiping at his eyes with a tissue and taking sips of water. Tori Stallings brought 2 Christmas stockings for the boy to look at. He said he doesn't recognize them. The boy said he remembers helping set up the Christmas tree. He said Orrin and Orson weren't there to put up the tree, but his other brothers were. Tori Stallings is showing the boy photos of Christmas stockings and chairs in the Cal City house in December 2020. She's showing there were stockings and chairs for everyone, including Orrin and Orson. Asked if Orrin and Orson were there at the dinner table, the boy said no. Tori Stallings is asking about things the boy enjoys. He said he used to watch anime with his dad. He plays video games. Judge Charles Brimmer has called a sidebar after Smith objected to the relevance of Tori Stallings' questions. The judge and attorneys have returned. Tori Stallings is continuing with questions about anime shows. Tori Stallings is asking if people died in a certain show. There have been frequent objections by Smith. The boy said people do die in the show. Asked if they had anything coming out of their nose or mouth, the boy said no. Tori Stallings was asking about a scene where a character dies, has things coming out of his mouth and nose, and comes back to life. She was apparently trying to draw a comparison with Orrin, who the boy said had vomit on him, and suggesting Orrin hadn't died. Brimmer sustained an objection, and Tori Stallings has moved on to another line of questioning. She's asking the boy about being questioned at his grandma Wanda's house the day after the boys were reported missing. The boy said he hasn't lived with his parents since then and doesn't know when he last saw them. He said maybe a year. The boy said he doesn't know why he can't talk to or live with them. The boy said he had a watch which he used to call his parents, but he couldn't take it when he left his grandmother's house. The boy's talking about relatives he sometimes gets visits or phone calls from. Tori Stallings is asking about the day of December 28, 2020 interview. He said he doesn't think they told him why he was going there. Tori Stallings is asking if anyone talked with him about the case, if he saw any coverage. He said he saw an interview on a laptop, but doesn't remember about the comments or so much about it. Court is in recess for 15 minutes. Court is back in session with a 12-year-old back on the stand being cross-examined by Tori Stallings. She's asking about when they moved to Cal City. There were multiple objections and the judge has called a sidebar. They're back. Tori Stallings is asking about December 2020 and when he went to his grandma Wanda's house. The boy said Orrin and Orson were not in the van. He said he doesn't remember the last time he saw them and doesn't remember saying the last time he saw them as being in the van when dropped off at his grandma's house. Tori Stallings had him look at a transcript taken from a prior time he testified. He said he doesn't remember saying that Orrin and Orson were in the van. Torres Stallings asked if he promised to tell the truth at that hearing. He said he believes so. He said he doesn't know why he said they were in the van back then, but is now saying they weren't. Torres Stallings ended her questioning, and the boy has been excused. Sonia Barton has taken the stand. She works for CPS. She interviewed the West's eldest child when he said he saw Orrin West die. She was the lead forensic interviewer and is now a supervisor in the department. Her bachelor's is in psychology and her master's is in social work. Smith is going to play a video of the interview Barton had with the child. The video has begun. It occurred at about 11:30 a.m. on December 22nd, 2020. The child enters the frame and sits on a chair, and Barton sits on the couch and starts talking with him. The boy was 8 at the time. He promises to tell the truth. The boy said he goes to school at his house and his parents teach him. He said he likes it, likes getting stickers. The boys asked about living in Bakersfield and who was in the apartment with him. He couldn't remember at first, but then said he remembers it was him and his brothers, including Orrin and Orson, and his parents. The boy says Orrin went to his grandmother's house and Orson left. The boy says he hasn't seen Orrin and Orson since they moved, but they're going to come back. He says there was a space on the bunk beds for the boys, and that the West's eldest son said they would come back. The boy says he's worried about both Orrin and Orson. He says he wants them to return to play with him. The boy says the West's biological children talked about where Orrin and Orson were, but he doesn't know where they went. Barton leaves for a minute, then returns and resumes questioning. Asked who moved from Bakersfield to Cal City, the boy names his other brothers, but not Orrin and Orson. The video has ended. Smith is now going to play an interview Barton had with one of the West's biological children. The boy is 7. He says he went to his grandmother Wanda's house over the weekend for a vacation. Barton asks why he's here to talk with her. He says he doesn't know. He's just there. Where did Orrin and Orson go? Barton asked. They went to their own home because they cried a lot, the boy says. He says his parents told him that. Asked again, the boy confirms the boys never went to California City. The boy says his dad spanked Orrin and Orson, all of the children. Asked if the spankings left marks, the boy says no, but they would bleed. The boy says the metal part of a belt his dad used would make them bleed. The boy says his father spanked them to make them be quiet. Orrin and Orson also bled from spanking, he says. He says his dad would tell them to shut up. The video ends. Smith ended his questioning. This forensic interview came up because the child, placed with a resource family, had seen news feeds regarding his parents and had questions, Barton said. The resource parent informed a social worker, who Barton assumes told law enforcement, and a follow-up interview was requested. The second interview occurred around December 28, 2020. Barton testified after her first interview with all 4 children, she believed the eldest child was not being truthful. She had that belief when she conducted the second interview with the eldest child. Torres Stallings ended her questioning. On redirect, Barton said she felt like the eldest boy was not being truthful, didn't want to get his parents in trouble. Her impression about second interview was that he was more forthcoming about what he said happened in the home. Barton had 2 interviews with the West's eldest child on December 22, 2020, and Torres Stallings is going to play the second interview. Transcripts are being handed out to the jury. The video is playing. Barton is asking about discipline in the house. The boy said his father will either give them a tongue lashing or make them sit in the corner. Barton asks about being forced to take cold showers. The boy said he's never had a cold shower as a form of punishment, and he thinks sometimes the showers were turned on cold but just needed to warm up. Barton tells the boy all his other brothers talk about the cold showers. The boy says Orrin and Orson took cold showers too. Barton reminds the boy he said he would tell the truth and asks if he doesn't see anything going on inside the house or not hear it or what. The boy denies being spanked with a belt and bleeding. The boy says he thinks his brothers exaggerated the punishment. The boy says there's nothing that's gone on at his house that he's concerned about. The video's over. Tori Stallings ended her questioning. And now Timothy Hennessy, lead attorney for Trezell West, is questioning her. Barton confirmed she conducted forensic interviews of all the boys. It was on December 28, 2020, that the eldest boy said he saw Orrin die. Prior to that, he didn't say that. Barton said she's aware the purpose of forensic interviews is to make sure the children tell the truth and are not improperly influenced. Between December 22nd and 28th, Barton said, she came to the conclusion the parents were lying after seeing the interview the parents gave to the news and interviewing the children for the first time. Hennessy is asking about Facebook stories Barton shared with another social worker that weren't true and how Barton kept falling for them. She confirmed that's true. Hennessy asked if she said these kids just need to spill the beans already. Barton confirmed that's true. Hennessy asked if it's true that when the FBI asked for fingerprints of the children, she sent a text to another social worker saying, how many bodies of a 3 to 4-year-old could they have? And used the shrug emoji. Barton said that's correct. Barton confirmed this message was sent before the eldest child's interview on December 28, 2020. Hennessy ended his questioning. Barton was excused. We're on the 19th day of the trial in the case against Trezell and Jacqueline West. The entire grand jury testimony of the West eldest child is going to be read into the court record, with attorneys and the judge reading different parts. Attorney R.L. Hutchinson is reading the responses of the child, while Fatima Rodriguez, one of the attorneys representing Jacqueline West, is reading the responses of the interviewer. The boy said he went to first grade and then he was homeschooled. He identified a photo of Jacqueline West as his mother and said she taught him. He identified a photo of his father and said he's nice and smart. The boy listed his other brothers, including Orrin and Orson. The interviewer asked about his brothers getting in trouble and how they were disciplined. The boy said they had lived in an apartment in Bakersfield near Casa Loma Elementary. The boy said Orrin and Orson would be all in the room where all the boys slept together while the other children were homeschooled. The boy said, we all had a bed on a floor, a mattress with a pillow. They all slept on the mattresses on the floor except for Orson, who slept in a crib, he said. The boy identified photos of Orrin and Orson. He said Orrin would cry a lot for no reason. He said his parents would place him in a room in timeout when he cried. He said he doesn't remember how long they lived in Bakersfield. He said he doesn't know why they moved, but they went to California City. The boy identified photos of rooms in the Cal City home. He talked about how he and his brothers, with the exception of Orrin and Orson, would go to schoolroom where they were homeschooled. A video was played for the boy, and he said he made it using Zoom, and some of his other brothers were in it. The boy said the watch used to be his dad's, but he gave it to him. He said he thinks it's at his grandmother's house now. He doesn't have it. The boy described the bunk beds put together by his father, Trezell West. He said he made them after they moved in. He described the bunks used by him, another child, and Orson. The boy said another room is for 2 of his other brothers and Orrin. He said all of us moved to the house, including Orrin and Orson. He said all of them were there when the pest control guy sprayed. No, the boy said, when asked if he knows where Orrin and Orson are. He said they were both in the van when the rest of the children were dropped off at their grandmother's a few days before Christmas. According to previous testimony, this was on December 19, 2020. Asked about previously saying he saw Orrin was sick, the boy said he heard gagging one night from Orrin. He said he went to bed. Then the next morning, he and 3 of his brothers went to their laptops. The boy said his parents went and checked on Orrin. They were there for a while, then came out and spoke with him, he said. He said he doesn't remember what they told him. He said he forgets what happened, but didn't see Orrin later and thinks he went to his grandmother's house. The boys said they moved to Cal City a little while after Orrin was dropped off. He said he next saw him a few days before Christmas. The boys said they brought Orrin back for a few days before Christmas. He said he thinks his dad went to pick him up. He said Orrin was at his grandmother's, Jacqueline West's mother's, for a while. He said he found out the boys were missing a few days before Christmas. He said he doesn't remember what he told police. The boy said he doesn't remember what he previously said about Orrin and Orson. A video of the boy's interview with Cal City police officer Brian Hansen was played for the boy. He said he told Hansen he hadn't seen Orrin or Orson for weeks because they got dropped off at Grandma's house. The boy talked again about hearing Orrin gagging one night. He said his parents never talked with him about it and he doesn't know about Orrin being sick. They played the video of the boy telling a social worker his parents told him Orrin had died. He said they asked him if they should tell anyone. He said Orrin was on the floor. Asked about when his grandmother on his father's side watched them in Cal City as they moved, the boy said only he and the 3 other boys were present, not Orrin and Orson. The interviewer asked how he felt about having a bed for Orson in his room, even though he knew he wasn't there. Like he would come back, the boy said. The boy told the grand jury he heard a bump in the night in the Cal City home, and Orson wasn't there the next day. The boy talked about Orrin and how his color was fading. His skin seemed dry the night after he heard him gagging. He said there was vomit. Orrin was motionless, according to the boy's testimony. He said Orson disappeared about a week and 4 days later. Alexia Torres Stallings, lead counsel for Jacqueline West, is going to play several videos. The first video is of Officer Brian Hansen interviewing the eldest son on December 22nd, 2020. The next videos are from interviews with the eldest child on December 28, 2020. Social worker Sonia Barton asked him what he smelled when Orrin had died. He says he didn't smell anything. A minute later, he says he did smell something, but couldn't tell what it was. The boy asked the social worker if his parents have enough food because there is police tape surrounding the house. That video has ended. Napolitano, in regards to the eldest child's interview by Cal City police officer Brian Hansen, found some things highly atypical, particularly when Hansen asked if the boy knew killing someone or assisting in the killing of someone was wrong. Torres Stallings is playing the first interview. After watching a portion, Napolitano said the questions about hurting or killing someone would prime a child into thinking someone had been hurt or killed, and placed in his mind that something had happened to Orrin or Orson. Napolitano said an interviewer must be clear about what they're talking about when questioning children. Be specific. Don't say they or them. Give the exact names. Going over the interview, Napolitano notes, as Torres Stallings called it, there are no anchors in time. The officer doesn't give a specific date regarding his questions about when the boys were dropped off, for example. Regarding the interviews conducted by social worker Sonia Barton, Napolitano said she did a lot right in the questions she asked and follow-up questions. She said Barton has clearly been trained as a forensic interviewer. I thought she did a lot right, Napolitano said. Reviewing a portion of one of Barton's interviews with the eldest child, Napolitano confirmed there were multiple repeated questions and peer pressure questions where Barton told the boy what his older brothers had said. Napolitano said Barton would not accept the boy's answer and used inappropriate techniques and questions. She described one segment as extremely leading. Torres Stallings is playing another portion of the video. After watching this segment, Napolitano said there were some questions that should not be asked. She said there was a great deal of social pressure on this child during this interview. She said Barton told the boy, "Your brother said," and similar statements, letting him know what his brothers had told her and possibly influencing him. There was also implementation of ideas and dramatic, scary words like spank till you bleed in the segment, Napolitano said. She said that portion of the interview was poorly done by Barton. Another interview segment is being played. In this segment, Napolitano said the eldest child is being asked a question over and over again to conform to what his other brothers had said, and she says she hears skepticism in Barton's voice. One question by Barton goes along the lines of, "What will it take for you to speak up?" which Napolitano said falls under the label of a coercive and suggestive question. Regarding Barton's testimony yesterday, Napolitano said the documentation that indicated she believed the eldest child was lying indicates she had a preconceived notion and bias before the boy was questioned on December 28, 2020. The eldest child never says Orrin died until Barton asks something about Orrin's body, which, in Napolitano's opinion, led the eldest child to think about seeing him dead. It could be a reconstruction of an event that never happened. In the eldest child's second interview with Barton, there was a discussion of smell. Barton brought it up. There had been no mention of it before. Barton bringing it up is a leading question. But what caught Napolitano's attention is she tells the boy he mentioned it before. Napolitano said it appeared to her the boy was guessing as to what Barton meant. Alexia Torres-Stallings, lead attorney for Jacqueline West, is asking Napolitano questions about the eldest West children's grand jury testimony. There have been multiple objections by the prosecution. A sidebar has been called. Sidebar is over, and Torres-Stallings is continuing to ask about questioning during the grand jury testimony and what Napolitano thinks of it. Napolitano said the boy gives a statement that is not consistent with his previous statements, making her question why there is the inconsistency and how to get to the bottom of it. Napolitano said she found it significant the eldest child, at the start of his testimony before the grand jury and at the trial, said he didn't remember or said his brothers were with him. Napolitano said she didn't know the 4 eldest West children had a welfare check on December 21st, 2020. The night Orrin and Orson were reported missing. She said that may have had an impact on the children. Napolitano said if she sees a series of interviews in which children say a number of inconsistent things, she doesn't know which one of those statements to believe. Another sidebar has been called. They're back, and Torres-Stallings has resumed questioning. Given a hypothetical, which follows the series of interviews performed with the children in the West case, Napolitano said she finds a lot wrong with it and potential for error. Torres-Stallings is asking about restraint techniques for children, and there was an objection as to the question's relevance. The objection was sustained, and that line of questioning has ended. She has been excused.